I told you to stay away from him, I screamed, shoving her against the fridge. She just smirked. Which one, babe? Your boyfriend? Or your daddy? I froze. Behind me, my dad stood in the doorway. His face went pale. You kissed her? I turned to him, shaking, betrayed. But before he could answer, I heard another voice behind me. You're not going to like what she did last night either, my boyfriend muttered, holding up his phone. 3 weeks earlier. If you asked me 3 weeks ago, I'd have told you my life was close to perfect. I had a full-ride scholarship to Howard, a boyfriend who brought me flowers just because, and a best friend who knew me better than anyone. Her name was Kelsey, and we'd been tight since sophomore year of high school. Kelsey practically lived at our house. She didn't have much family, and my parents were always kind to her. My mom passed when I was 10, so it was just me and Dad, and he treated Kelsey like one of his own. He'd call her kiddo and joke that she was his second daughter. Back then, I thought it was sweet. Harmless, loving. But something started to feel off. It was little things at first. I'd find Kelsey in our kitchen way too early, dressed up like she wasn't just here for pancakes. She'd laugh a little too hard at my dad's bad jokes. And the way she hugged my boyfriend, Malik, let's just say it didn't feel like a friendly squeeze. I told myself I was being paranoid. Jealous, even. Kelsey had been through a lot. She didn't deserve my suspicion. But one night, I came home early from a group project and found her on the couch with Malik. Her legs were in his lap. They sprang apart like guilty teenagers. She claimed she was just cold. When I asked Malik about it later, he acted like I was being dramatic. She's like your sister, babe. Chill. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling. And then there was the necklace. Dad had given my mom a diamond pendant before she died. It stayed locked in his safe for years, until I saw it around Kelsey's neck one morning. My stomach dropped. Is that my mom's necklace? I asked. Kelsey blinked, then smiled. Your dad said I could borrow it. He thought it'd suit me. I wanted to scream, but instead I just nodded. Later that night, I cried in the bathroom. The house that used to feel like home now felt like a stage. And I was the only one who didn't know the script. I started watching them more closely. The way Malik smiled at his phone when Kelsey texted, the private glances between her and my dad, the fact that she was always around. And for the first time, I let the ugly question rise to the surface. Was Kelsey playing me? If she was, why? I started keeping tabs on Kelsey, not out of spite, out of survival. It wasn't just Malik, it was my dad, too. Every time I turned around, she was with one of them. One morning, I overheard her on the phone, giggling like a teenager. Don't worry, I'll keep him wrapped around my little finger, she said. When I stepped into the room, she hung up in a flash and smiled like nothing was wrong. The next weekend, I stayed home from a party and pretended to sleep. I heard Malik's car pull up late. Minutes later, soft footsteps creaked down the hallway. And Kelsey's bedroom door opened. I followed them. They were in the kitchen, whispering, close. I missed you, he said. I told you, not here, she replied. I took a shaky breath and snapped a photo of their silhouettes through the glass pantry door. I didn't confront them, not yet. Instead, I showed my dad, but his reaction shocked me. Kelsey's like family, he said, barely glancing at the photo. Maybe you're just jealous of her bond with Malik. Jealous? Of what? Being lied to? I felt sick. The betrayal was rotting me from the inside, but no one else seemed to care. Then it got worse. I found an envelope in my dad's office. Inside were receipts, thousands of dollars in transfers to Kelsey. The most recent, just 2 days ago. I stared at the amount, $4,500. She wasn't just playing me, she was playing them and getting paid to do it. When I asked her about it, she smiled like she was above it all. Maybe your dad just likes spoiling me, she said. Wouldn't be the first older man who did. My hands shook. Are you sleeping with him? I whispered. She leaned in, lips inches from mine. Does it matter? Then she walked away. I didn't sleep that night. The image of them, her pressed close to Malik, my boyfriend, in my kitchen, was burned into my brain. But what haunted me more was her answer to my question. Does it matter? Yes. It mattered, more than anything. The next day, I came home early again, this time on purpose. I told my professor I wasn't feeling well, and I didn't lie. My stomach was twisted into knots. As I approached the house, I saw Malik's car in the driveway. He was supposed to be at work. I didn't go in the front door. I crept around the back through the side gate and peered in through the glass doors. There they were. In the living room. On the couch. Kelsey sat on Malik's lap, her arms around his neck. They were laughing, kissing. I couldn't breathe. I burst through the door like a storm. Kelsey jumped up, looking almost amused. Malik scrambled to his feet. "You," I pointed at her. "You snake." Malik reached for me. "Babe, wait. Don't babe me," I snapped, slapping his hand away. "How long has this been going on?" Kelsey just smirked. "Don't look so surprised." Then she dropped the real bomb. "Your dad's a way better kisser anyway." My knees almost buckled. "You're lying," I gasped. "Am I?" she said, and pulled out her phone. One swipe, and she shoved the screen in my face. It was a selfie of her and my dad. He was asleep, shirtless, in bed. I ran. I didn't stop until I was blocks away, the cold air cutting my skin, my tears mixing with sweat and rage, my boyfriend, my father, and her. I thought I knew betrayal, but this was another universe, and somehow I still had no idea what she really wanted. I didn't talk to anyone for 2 days. Not Malik, not my dad, not even Kelsey. But I did talk to someone I hadn't seen in years. My Aunt Patrice, my mom's sister. She'd always kept her distance from my dad after my mom died. I never knew why. I called her, sobbing, and when I told her everything, she got quiet. "I knew this day would come," she said. "What are you talking about? You remember that summer your mom went away for a few months before you were born?" "Barely," I whispered. "Dad said it was for her job." Patrice laughed bitterly. "No, baby, she left because your father cheated. With a girl named Tanisha. She was barely 18. Your mom found out and needed space." The name echoed in my brain. Tanisha, Kelsey's mom. "She got pregnant, didn't she?" I whispered. "Yes, and your dad paid her off, told her to stay quiet. She left the state. We thought that was the end of it." But it wasn't. It was the beginning. Kelsey was my half-sister. Everything slammed into place like bricks. The way my dad was always soft on her, the weird attachment, the way she slithered into my life like she belonged there. She wasn't just sleeping with the men in my life. She was trying to ruin it from the inside out. I hung up the phone and stared at my reflection in the bathroom mirror. My face looked the same, but my life had been split open. She was my sister. And she wanted revenge. But why now? And how far was she willing to go? I didn't cry again. I'd cried enough. Now, I planned. First, I hacked into my dad's laptop while he was in the shower. He used my birthday as the password. Pathetic. Inside his email, I found transfers to Kelsey dating back 2 years. She had him wrapped around her finger for ages. But even worse, he was about to change his will, to include her. I took photos of everything, dates, amounts, messages. Then I went to Malik's apartment. He answered the door like he'd seen a ghost. "Don't speak," I snapped, stepping past him. "You don't even know what you're involved in." He followed me, confused. "What do you mean?" I showed him the email, the transfer logs, the updated will. Then I dropped the final hammer. "She's my sister, Malik, my dad's daughter. She knew the whole time." His face turned sheet white. What? She planned this, to take everything, to break everyone who ever ignored her existence. And just like that, Malik cracked. "She told me she loved me," he said, dazed, "that we'd run away together after graduation. I gave her money." "Of course you did," I said flatly. "She played you." We made a deal. Malik would help me, not because he deserved forgiveness, but because he had one thing I didn't. Access to her phone. He started screen recording every conversation, every flirt, every demand for more money, every insult she threw at my name. I compiled it all into a folder called sistersnake.exe. And when I was done, I emailed it to everyone. Her professors, her internship supervisor, my dad, and worst of all, I posted it publicly on our school's anonymous gossip page. I didn't go to class the next day, but Kelsey did, which meant she walked straight into the explosion. The second she entered the student union, everyone turned. Phones out, whispers loud, screens lit with her face, her voice, her dirty little secrets. By the time she reached her locker, campus security was there. Apparently, one of her jokes in the texts had crossed a line, something about getting rid of the real daughter. My dad was waiting at home, face white as paper. He held his phone in one hand, the diamond necklace in the other. What is this?" he asked me. "You tell me," I said coldly. "Your other daughter has a real talent for revenge." He dropped the necklace. Later that night, Malik texted me. "She's gone, packed up and left. Blocked me." But the damage she left behind? It still burned. I sat in my childhood bedroom, surrounded by broken trust and bitter memories. She was my sister, my blood, and she wanted me destroyed. Kelsey vanished. No one knew where she went. No calls, no posts, nothing. It was like she'd evaporated, leaving only chaos behind. But silence didn't mean safety. A week later, I got an email. No subject, just a link. I clicked it. It was a video of me, 4 years ago, drunk at a party, crying, stumbling, Malik guiding me upstairs. My shirt was halfway off. The caption read, "Guest consent is a gray area for some people." My stomach dropped. Kelsey still had teeth. I didn't remember that night, but I remembered what Malik told me the morning after. "You passed out. I just made sure you got home safe." But the video didn't look like that. It looked worse. I confronted him immediately. "Did you do something to me?" He shook his head, panicked. "No, I swear. I carried you to bed and left. That video, it's edited. You can even see the cut." He was right. On closer look, the timestamp jumped. I checked the metadata. The file was altered. Last week. She still had access to his cloud. She wanted to ruin me now. But she underestimated one thing. I wasn't afraid anymore. I took the full, unedited version Malik had kept, complete with footage of him leaving the room, coat still on. Then I did what she never expected. I posted my truth, side by side, her edited lie and the real footage. And the caption? "Here's how manipulators work, Sister Snake." It went viral in hours. People started turning on her, not just seeing the scandal, seeing the pattern, and suddenly, the victim mask she'd worn so well, it cracked. It was supposed to be a celebration, my dad's 50th birthday, a massive church banquet, catered, formal, full of people from our community. But for me, it was a battleground, because Kelsey showed up, in a white bodycon dress and blood-red heels, like she owned the place. The room hushed as she walked in. My dad stood frozen near the altar, microphone in hand. I stepped forward. "You shouldn't be here." She smiled sweetly. "But he invited me. Didn't you, Daddy?" Gasps, whispers. He looked like he might collapse. "I didn't know she was still in town," he stammered. I stepped up to the mic. "You want the real story?" I said, voice trembling but loud. "Here's what you didn't know." And I laid it all out. The affair, the payoffs, the betrayal, the secret sisterhood wrapped in jealousy and manipulation. I ended with one final blow. She tried to accuse Malik of assault. She faked a video. She almost ruined both our lives, but this time she failed. Kelsey's mask slipped. She screamed. "You think this makes you better than me?" she shouted, grabbing a glass and hurling it at the wall. The glass shattered behind me. Someone called security. My grandmother clutched her pearls, and as they escorted Kelsey out, she shrieked, "He still loves me! I'm the one he wanted!" But no one looked at her with sympathy, just disgust. The silence after the storm was louder than the screams had been. After the church incident, Kelsey disappeared again. But this time, there were no Instagram lives, no shady TikToks, no cryptic messages. It was like she vanished into thin air, like a ghost retreating into the dark after causing chaos. But the damage? That stayed. My dad avoided the press at first. He stayed holed up in the house, refusing to comment. But the gossip didn't need his voice. It had its own legs. People at church started whispering behind pews. He lost 3 major business sponsors. My mom left town to stay with her sister until things blew over. I didn't speak to him for a month. When I finally did, it was because he showed up at my apartment. No warning, no flowers, just a man in a wrinkled button-down holding a brown envelope. "I'm not here to make excuses," he said, voice flat, "but you deserve to hear it from me." Inside the envelope were emails, receipts, photos, proof that he'd been sending Kelsey's mom money for over a decade. Proof that when Kelsey started reaching out, he invited her into our lives in secret. Proof that he told her I had everything she should have had. He pit us against each other. "I thought if you two never knew, it wouldn't cause problems," he said, eyes glassy. But the truth always finds a way out. I didn't hug him. I didn't forgive him. But I let him leave without slamming the door. The fallout wasn't just emotional. Malik left town, quietly. I didn't ask him to, but after everything, I think he knew we were radioactive. We texted once. He told me he was okay and that he hoped someday I would be too. I got back into school, finished my classes, I started therapy, I worked long hours and took walks alone at night, even when I was scared, just to remind myself I was alive. And then one day, I got a package. No name, no return address. Inside was a small wooden box. Inside the box, a torn photo. Me and Kelsey, age 10, sitting on the swings in matching dresses, smiling. On the back, scrawled in red pen, "You got the house. I got the haunted parts." No signature. I held it for an hour before burning it in my kitchen sink, but I didn't cry, because in a strange, twisted way, I understood. We were both daughters of a man who raised us in shadows. Only difference? I made it out of the dark. A year passed, not quickly, not gracefully. Every day was a fight to reclaim my peace, but I won. I graduated with honors, moved out of the city, got hired at a nonprofit working with girls who grew up in complicated homes. Girls like me, girls like Kelsey. I still had nightmares sometimes, Kelsey standing at the edge of my bed, whispering all the secrets she never got to spill. But when I woke up, I reminded myself, she was gone. One rainy Wednesday, my phone buzzed. A voicemail from a law office. "Miss Taylor, we're calling regarding your father's estate. He passed last night. There's a letter you should read." I froze. Even after everything, the word father still made my throat tighten. I went to the office the next day. Sat across from a woman in glasses who slid me a thick manila folder and an envelope with my name scrawled in my dad's messy handwriting. Inside, "Dear Kennedy, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and I doubt I've earned your forgiveness, but I wanted you to know. You were always the best thing I ever did. I destroyed too much trying to protect what I should have been honest about. I lied to you, lied to Kelsey, and now neither of you will ever speak to me again. I left you the house. Not out of guilt, because I know you'll turn it into something better. Maybe something true. Goodbye." I didn't cry. I just folded the letter and walked outside into the rain. I inherited everything: house, savings, stock shares. I kept almost none of it. Donated his stock to charities, gave the savings to the church's scholarship fund. But I kept the house, not because it meant anything good, because I needed to rewrite it. I stripped every wall, ripped up the carpet, replaced the staircase where I used to sit and listen to their arguments through the vents. I painted the walls yellow, sunshine yellow, not for joy, just so the darkness couldn't creep back in. And on the front porch, I planted a white rose bush, in memory of the sister who never had a home. Because here's what I finally understood. Kelsey wasn't born evil. She was made. By neglect. By secrets. By a man who gave us both half of himself and called it fatherhood. She tried to become me, and I spent years trying not to become her. But in the end, we were reflections. I carry her with me now, not as a warning, but as a lesson. Your legacy isn't what you inherit, it's what you choose to bury, and what you choose to grow in its place. Wow, what a ride. If you enjoyed this twist-filled journey, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Stories by Laine for more unforgettable drama and surprises. And before you go, tell us, what would you have done if you were in Kennedy's situation? Hit that notification bell so you never miss a story that'll keep you on the edge of your seat. Thanks for watching, and remember, twists you will not see coming await in every chapter.